Today, you're going to create this blog/newspaper style layout without the use of the CSS grid or Flexbox. Before we begin, this video's sponsor is Linode, and they make it easy and affordable to host your site, app, or service on whatever technology stack you use. Unlike entry-level hosting services, Linode is a step up to powerful, fast, fully configurable cloud computing. With server plans starting at just $5 plus no hidden fees or surprise outages, Linode offers a no-nonsense hosting at a price you can afford. So sign up now using the link below to get a $20 credit on your new Linode account. Hey everyone, what's up? Gary Simon of CourseCetera.com. So today we're going to be checking out what's called the CSS multi-column, and it's another way to create CSS layouts. Now this really lends itself to articles and newspaper style layouts with a lot of type and a lot of paragraph, type-based content and elements, and it's very cool the way it works. So we're going to start with mobile first, which is nothing exciting here. Everything's stacked. You don't really see the effect in this context, but once we come out, we'll see that all of a sudden we have two columns for our type. Now, the cool thing is when I extend this and we go to larger viewport widths, just look how the fact that where it says another headline and this type right here is in the first column, it automatically shifts over once we give it more room into the second column. So check this out. And then when we come out further, I have a media query set up to change this column to 3. There's 3 columns. It's a single property and it works very well. It's a very, very cool stuff. Like I said, no grid or Flexbox being used here in this. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. But first, make sure to subscribe. All right, so we're gonna get started here. I have a empty folder here in Visual Studio Code opened up. Let's go ahead, as always, create an index.html, exclamation point, enter. We'll link up a non-existent style sheet in CSS folder, main.css. Save that. We'll go into CSS and create a CSS folder and then main.scss. We'll use Sass for this. You're gonna need 2 extensions. Watch Sass right here. I'll show you those in a second, and then we can right-click and open with Live Server, which is also an extension as well. And there we go. So if you don't have those, of course, just go over here to the plugins or the extensions section, and then make sure you have Live Sass compilation and also Live Server. All right. Oh, I'll be using Ipsum as well, possibly down there. Okay, so let's go back to our index. We'll start with the HTML first. So what we'll do is, we're just going to create an outer div, like a kind of like a container. We're going to call it outer, and we'll have an H1. This is a beautiful, oh my God, learn how to type or spell rather, beautiful newspaper headline. Okay, we'll save that. We'll go ahead and we'll use a HTML5 article tag here, and then we will start with a paragraph. And I'm not going to use the full lorem here. I'm going to copy and paste this off screen just to help us a bit. And we're going to do this just a couple more times. So I'm going to get just enough content to where this this feature makes sense. All right, with the multi-col. I hate how it automatically indents stuff. Stop freaking doing that. All right, so right there is all we're going to start with. We're going to have a lot more, and I'll speed up the part where I add some more paragraphs, tags, and all that, so don't worry. But for now, we're just going to save this, and we can see if we look at our browser, I mean, this is what it looks like by default without any CSS. So let's go ahead and get this set up correctly. So we're going to use 2 different fonts for this, for the headlines and the paragraphs. That is Lato or Lotto, and then Prada. All right, so let's go ahead and create a body here, and we're going to say margin 0. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and move things over so we can see. We're going to start with, I'm going to start trying to do this and remembering to do this. Start with mobile first. So 1 second. All right, so there we go. So we'll save this as we add properties and all that good stuff. So background, I just feel like making a darker sort of theme. So we'll do RGB 15, 15, 15. All right, so now we can't really see anything but color white, and we can now. And then text align center. So whenever you're making a design, I should have mentioned this before, you're starting with mobile first, all right? So we have a smaller mobile viewport right here to get started. So and the reason we do this is well, there's a couple reasons, but the primary reason when you're dealing with front-end development like we are with HTML and CSS is so that it helps your CSS and your selectors and all that. It's a little bit easier going from simple, and then as you scale out in your media queries, just making your adjustments that way rather than going desktop first. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to do H1, H2, H3. I know we don't have the H2 and H3 yet, but we will shortly. And we're just going to give this a font family of Prada. All right, and then also a margin top of 0 and a margin bottom of 2 EM. So I'm just overriding some of the default settings here. Of course, that looks bad, but don't worry, we'll fix that in a second. So our H3 color, RGB, 199, 199, 199. You can't see that yet because I don't have that selector there. I'm just getting some basic stuff out of the way. In fact, this is so simple. I'm just going to paste these in. I'm just changing up the color, font family here for paragraphs, margin top 0. We're going to change outer, padding 1 EM. All right, so now we got it away from the edges. It looks a little bit better. And then here comes the really cool part. All right, so the cool part, but it's not going to look cool yet. But this is what this whole tutorial is about. So our section element, which doesn't exist and I forgot to include, should be right here. Actually, no. Should be right here. We're going to add an H2 actually. Forgot about that one. Get that type going. All right, so this is kind of like a subtitle here. And then the parts that we want to include in this feature, we're going to include in a section tag. It can be it could be a div, it doesn't matter, but section I'm just choosing to use here. So we'll take this and indent it. Okay, so we have our section. We have 3 paragraphs so far in there. All right, so nothing's really changing yet, but if we go back here in the section, this is what's going to be the parent container that's going to include our multi-column format. So we're going to put, for now, column count 1 because we're on a mobile viewport at this point. So column gap, we can also put 2 EM, and that will separate the columns. So because we have just 1, it's only going to, it's going to look like it behave like it would normally. But if we change this, say to 2, look at that. It's automatically giving us, and it's automatically separating the content that's inside of it into these columns. Very, very cool. So you can go crazy, like, you can go 4 if you want. Check that out. I just love it. Of course, we could do like 5 EM between them to give them a ton of white space, maybe perhaps on a larger viewport. But yeah, very cool. Let's keep on adding to this though. Make that 1. All right. Let's also put an image in there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, get an images folder in here. I'm going to add this to Codepen so that you guys can get access to the images too, just to show you how images and such behave inside of multi-columns. All right, so now I have an images with a keyboard graphic and a keyboard 2 graphic, and this is from Unsplash. Okay, so we'll go back to our index.html, and we're going to add our image tag with our first keyboard graphic, and we'll do that right after at the bottom here. All right, so we'll save that, and let's go back to main, and we're going to add real quickly to make this image responsive width 80%, and we're going to give it a margin from the top of 1 EM and then 0 on the bottom as well. All right. So it doesn't look interesting yet, but now we're going to get into the media queries. All right. So coming out, we'll do the first one just at the standard 768 media query. And inside of here, we'll say body, text align center, no, left, sorry. And then font size 18 pixels. All right. So by default, the font size is set in the body tag by the browser at 16 pixels, but because we're using EM units here for the paddings and the margins, these will automatically scale in relation every time we adjust the font size upwards. So you'll see if we extend this to 7 to 68, there it goes. It's left aligned, and things are just a little bit bigger in terms of our padding and spacing and font size. All right, so continuing on after that, I want to put more line height between the paragraphs. So line height, 1.6 EM. So you can see it push things down just a bit, makes it a little bit easier to read. And then let's overwrite our section tag. So remember, we have our column count as 1, so let's overwrite that to 2. All right. There we go. So now we're going from here, which makes much more sense on a small device like a phone of some sort. You don't want to have multiple columns. You don't have enough width in order to show that usually, unless you have other type of content that's not type-based content. But when you go up, there we go. Things got larger, looking a little bit better, and notice how this content will, depending on the width of the browser and the available space, it automatically will, just continue on from this other column. And it's something that you really can't do if you're doing something like Flexbox or the grid or any other manner of managing layouts. All right, so let's continue on here. We can also add, there's another property for multi-columns, a border between your columns. So column roll style, you could change this up. By default, I would imagine it is solid. We'll check that in a second. Column roll color is RGB, and then we'll do 43. It's like a mid-gray. By the way, if you're wondering where I got these values from, I didn't just type them in. In Visual Studio Code, you could put a hex color code. Usually I'll just put black or something, and then I hover over it, and then I choose which one I want, the color. So now we save it, and there we go. Look at that. You can also change the width as well if you want it to be like 1 pixel or so. And of course, it disappears when you just have one column. Let's continue on here. So just to make this a little bit better looking. So another thing that we'll see is, I'm not sure if you notice it right here, but if you end up with a paragraph that starts right here in another column, the paragraph automatically has, it will usually have some type of margin top, and so it'll start a little bit lower. And the way you fix that is section, all of the siblings in, or the children in section will be margin top 0. All right. So after that, make some other adjustments real quick. Font size 3 rem units. We'll also do, let's see here, margin 2 EM, 0 and 1 EM. Outer, we'll change our padding to 4 EM. All right. And then article, oh no, don't do that. Let's get this out of there. We'll do article here with a padding of dogs barking out there, 2 EM, and then a background. We'll give it a background, like a light gray color. Just like that. So as you can see, we can drastically change things up with the power of media queries. Now let's start adding some more content. This is boring, certainly, and we're gonna add another media query to convert this into 3 columns. So let's do that real quick, and just to show you other things that you can do with multi-column. You can add another headline in there. This time we'll do an H3, so we'll just put like H3 here, and then we'll add 2 more large-sized paragraphs. All right, so here's that. So we save this, and everything will start to work exactly as we anticipated. So coming out here, just look at that. It just looks so good already. All right, we can add some more. So we can, at the end of this section, we could perhaps do another section, but we'll put an H2. We're gonna put a class called secondary, and we'll style that up here in a second. Let's see some more. Just trying to make this look like a full actual article of some sort. And then another section down here, and I'm going to paste a big chunk of HTML. And again, it's just paragraphs. So we'll see we have a paragraph here, paragraph here, paragraph here, and H3, all your base are belong to us. So this time we're not just putting paragraphs and images, we can also put in H3 elements. So you can put anything you want in here and it will work. Let me add one more paste here, just 3 more elements to really fill this thing out. And this is just going to be P class span all. This is going to be important to show you another feature. And then a paragraph. Oops. Yeah, so paragraph, and a paragraph. So nothing crazy happening here. Let's just save that. We'll see what it looks like now at this point. This doesn't look too great because we're on a larger size where we could probably stand to split this up into more columns. All right, so let's continue on with the CSS. That's all we're going to do for the HTML, by the way. All right, so let's go back here. So we have our article. I wanted to do some sort of, this is kind of like a side note of this tutorial. It's not the purpose of this tutorial, but just to show you, a little tidbit, how you can get an interesting custom sort of underline for your headings here for your articles or whatever. So let's do display inline block and in conjunction with position relative. So these two properties are important and required for this effect in order for it to work correctly. All right, so also you want to set z-index to 1. So we're going to have an underline that we're going to create by custom. So it's just going to be a regular text decoration underline property. Ours is going to be custom, and we can do that is we add the before selector. So this adds the before selector onto our H2 element, and then we do content empty, and then we also do position absolute. All right, width will be 30%. Height, we're going to make like 10 pixels. Z-index will be -1. Bottom will be -0.3 EM. Left will be -2 EM. And this is all just the bottom and the left and the width and the height. That's all personal preference. We'll do background. We'll make it like, for now we'll just say purple. And then border radius, just like 1 EM. So if we, I screwed something up. Oh, I put a comma up there, that's why. All right, let's save that and then see what this looks like. And that's all I did. So if you can see, it adds that automatically. So if you experiment with these bottom left, and the height and all that, you can change the position of this. And I also, like the z-index, for instance, of this being 1 and this being -1. If this goes out further, it will be underneath the type, like where the certain characters that extend beyond or below the baseline. For instance, if we make this 100%, you'll see that it goes, well, let's do, where's bottom at? Bottom, we'll just leave it 0, just to show you. There we go. Otherwise, if you don't have like z-index here, then it goes on top. It looks like crap. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit and how you can do this sort of thing. We'll go back to what I had before. All right. So let's continue on. We're going to add just a few more rule sets here. So secondary, what was that? That was placed over here somewhere. Yep, H2 class secondary. I had a margin top of 2 EM just to push it down further right here. So it pushes it down quite a bit more. We also have our image width is 100%. I had it, I think, at 90% for mobile, or 80%. There we go. Making that 100% so that it fills the entire span here. Also, we'll do H3. Color, RGB, 199, 199, 199. I didn't want it to be completely white. Margin, 1.5 EM, 0, and 1 EM at the bottom. So our H3 is at the bottom here, right here. So it's not quite white. And then finally, P span all. This is the other feature that's really cool. So currently, if we look at, let's see here. Where's my span all? Yes, this is some cool important text, right? Let's find that. It is right here. What if we wanted this to span all the way across the two elements? It's very simple. You would think normally with traditional, layout, you'd have to adjust your grid or your Flexbox columns and all that, but you don't have to do that with multi-columns. Column, span, all. That's it. Look at that. Now this, of course, looks like crap now though, right? But you can still use all the other properties to get this thing styled up. So we'll make the font size bigger, 1.6 EM, padding, 0.5 EM all the way around, margin 2 EM and 0 at the top and bottom, color white, and then text align center. So we save this, and look at that. Suddenly, you have at your disposal this really easy way to add blocks and such to your text, to your article content. All right, so let's do one more media query, and it only is going to have literally 2 rule sets. So we have our outer rule set. This is just to get it centered up, and then also section, we're just changing column count from 2 in the previous media query to 3 here. And let's check it out. So we're going from here, mobile layout, nothing that great. Probably could stand to have more line height on there, but no big deal. Coming out, we're at 2, and now we're at 3. Look at that. Very, very, very cool stuff. All right, so hopefully you learned something new in this. If so, give me a comment, give me a like, and also a subscribe. I'll see you guys real shortly. Goodbye.